Welcome to the channel and welcome to episode 8 of my solo play Grimdark Future campaign. I don't use the AI rules, I try to play both sides as objectively as I can. And in this episode we are returning to the capital in Novus Chestrensis Prime. We're on the outskirts of the city where the desolation of the city meets the desolation of the wastes. The orcs were driven from the city, but they are regrouping, and they are looking to take back what they believe to be theirs. Here we have the forces of the Soul Snatcher cult. With the taking of the capital, the Patriarch has emerged, the Four-Armed Majesty, and he is accompanied by the Holy Ones, a unit of 5 Soul Snatchers. To the bottom left of the screen we've got the Blessed Sons, a unit of 5 Acolytes. 2 have flamethrower pistols, 2 have heavy cutters. Behind them we have a new unit, a unit of 5 neophytes, the Seekers. 1 has a quake cannon, the rest have rifles. Next to them we have the Jackals, a unit of 3 minion bikers. All 3 have shotguns and 1 has a heavy hammer. Next to them, another new unit of neophytes, the Shadows. 1 has a heavy machine gun, the other 4 have shotguns. Next to them we have Grinder Truck Gamma 4. It's a grinder truck with a heavy machine gun and a heavy mining laser. Next to the grinder truck we have another new unit, the Wolf, a minion quad bike armed with a heavy flamer. To the bottom right of the screen we have the Darklings, a unit of 5 mutant brutes. 1 has a pick hammer, the other 4 have heavy picks, and accompanying them is another unit that's technically new because it was introduced at the last game the Soul Snatcher cult played in, the Darkling Lord, a brute champion. And then finally we have the leader who has led the cult thus far and has handed the reins over to the Patriarch. We have Archmage Karlov. He's a cult leader, he's a psychic, and he is accompanied by another unit of 5 neophytes, the Blessed Initiates. 1 has a mining laser, the others have rifles, and that totals 1,630 points. For the first time since the very first game, all of the orcs are taking part in this game. They don't have any units missing for a change. They currently total 1,550 points, so that's more than 50 points difference compared to the Soul Snatcher cults, so they will get 1 underdog bonus point represented by that crystal at the bottom. And
Oi, zog off, this is my lads and I is going to talk about them. Now I am Boss Brainbasher, I'm an orc leader and I's got a twin carbine, an ultra claw and an attack beast. I'm also a master at shooting frenzy, and I've been patched up so many times I've got a cyborg body so I can regenerate. I'm bringing along with me my lads, Brainbasher's boys. There's an orc mob with carbines, and I'm also bringing along Odd Git, because he's odd and he's a git and he's a psychic. He's also some kind of chemist, which means the lads who's with him are better at morale and stuff. The Gangers is mobbing up with him. That's another orc mob with pistols and close combat weapons, and 1 git has got an ultra claw. Behind them we's got the runts, little gits. They's headstrong, so they's also a bit cocky when it comes to morale and stuff. Then we's got the jet wagon. It's a combat cart with a mega scrap machine gun and a chain rocket propelled grenade launcher. Next to that we's got the flaming grabber. It's an orc walker with 2 walker claws and 2 rapid heavy flamers. In front of him we's got the big lads, a boss mob with pistols and close combat weapons, and 1 git has got an ultra claw. I ain't having them along with me, because next thing you know they's going to be shooting me in the head, and they wants to be the boss, so they staying well away from me. In that crater we's got the fly boys, some jetpack orcs, and they's going to be flying around above the battlefield until I tells them to get down here and ambush some stuff. And then we's got the sneaky gits. The mad dog has finally finished patching them up, so they's come back for a scrap. And 1 of them gits has also got an ultra claw. And that's my mob, that's Brainbasher's boys.
okay, we're set up. We rolled for objectives and we've got 5, so we've got 1 in the exact centre, and then we've got 2 towards the orcs deployment zone, and then 2 towards the Soul Snatchers deployment zone. Speaking of deployment, the orcs won the deployment roll-off. So let's talk you through their deployment. From left to right, from our perspective, we've got the runts hiding at the back of that building. We've got the flaming grabber getting ready to go on to objective 3. There's Brain Basher with his boys, and also the big lads. He wants to keep an eye on them. We've got the jet wagon. I'm starting to talk like Brain Basher again. And then on the opposite flank in the building, we've got Oddgit and the gangers. And then finally for the orcs, we've got the sneaky gits hiding in this building on their right flank, our left flank as we look at it. For the soul snatchers, everything's got scout except the truck. So we could deploy the truck and then everything else went down afterwards. Now the orcs also have some scouts. They've got the sneaky gits, the commandos. So we rolled off and the orcs won the roll off, so the sneaky gits went down first and then the rest of the soul snatcher cults deployed. In the truck we've got the mutant brutes and the brute boss. On the left flank in this building, getting ready to jump onto objective 2, we've got the acolytes. In the centre we've got the minion bikers. Now everything's got scouts so they can make an extra move before the start of the game, ignoring terrain. In this building towards the central objective, on the ground floor we've got the new unit of neophytes. On the first floor we've got Archmage Karlov with his retinue. Over here towards the right flank we've got the other new unit of neophytes, the one with the quake cannon. And then emerging from the tunnel, which presumably is the tunnel from which they dug from the mining camp on this southern continent, we've got the Patriarch with his retinue of soul snatchers and also the wolf, the quad bike. Right, so the orcs won the deployment roll-off, so they'll get the first activation in the first turn. But before we do that, let's find out what their special objectives are for this game. Special objective for the soul snatcher cults. 4. Recovery. First player to recover a unit from pinned. And for the orcs, 1. Mastery. So 1 unit in each quarter of the table at the end of the game. At the start of the first turn, is there going to be a random event on a 5+? Yes, there is. It's going to be number 65. Thought that sounded familiar. Critical transmission. Select 1 random army which immediately gets 1 victory point. That's what the HDF got. And yeah, it was their only victory point for quite some time. Right. Odds it'll be the orcs, evens it'll be the soul snatcher cult. It's the orcs get 1 victory point just because of a random event. For the first activation, Oddgit is going to try and cast Warpath, a psychic spell, which for him will go off on a 3+, ordinarily 4+, but he's psychic 1, which passes. I sound a little bit surprised because he doesn't do so well historically with casting spells, but yeah, that gives that allows him to choose 2 friendly units within 6 inches and they get stealth next time they're shot at. So he's going to go for the gangers, who he's with, so he gets the benefit of it as well, and also the jet wagon, which is only just within 6 inches, but it is within 6 inches. And then Oddgit and the gangers have moved on to objective 5, keeping in the cover of that building. The orcs may be crazy, but they're not stupid. For the soul snatcher cults, Archmage Karlov and his retinue have advanced on that first floor of that building. Karlov is now going to try and cast Mind Poison. Goes off on a 4+, he's psychic 1, so he'll go off on a 3+, which casts. We then pick an enemy unit within 12 inches, which takes 3 hits at AP 1. That's going to be the big lads. Their defense 4+, so this will be 5s needed to save. 2 pass, 1 fail, so one of them will die. Its brain melted by psychic poison. Then the mining laser is going to fire at the jet wagon. This is 1 shot, which will hit ordinarily on a 4+, but a 5+ because it's currently got stealth. That's a fail, it's a miss. And the 4 rifles and Karlov's pistol are going to go into the big lads. So this will be 5 shots, all hitting on 4+, 5+ because of the cover. 3 hits, 4s to save. 2 more die. The 2 remaining big lads now need to take a morale test because there's only 2 of them left out of 5. They are quality 3+ though. That's a 2. They're pinned. So I think the Soul Snatcher cults have just done themselves out of something valuable there, because yeah, the Yorks now have a pinned unit, so all they need to do is unpin that unit and they will deprive the Soul Snatcher cults of their special objective. Boss Brainbasher and his boys are going to shoot up at Karlov and his initiates. This is going to be 24 shots. Orcs are bad shots, so they hit on 5+, but 6s because the target is in cover. 24 shots hitting on 6s. Boss Brainbasher gives himself and the unit Relentless, so any 6s to hit will generate extra shots. So that was 4 6s, so that will generate 4 more shots, which creates 2 more hits. 6 saves of 5+. 3 save, 3 go through, so 3 of the initiates will die. And that puts the unit down to half its starting strength, so they will need to take a morale test on a 4+, which they fail, so they're now pinned. Unfortunately, they're not going to get to remove that pin until next turn because they've already activated. The grinder trick has advanced. It's going to fire the mining laser at the Orc Walker and the heavy machine gun at the remaining big lads. Mining laser, 1 shot will hit on a 4, which is a miss. 3 machine gun shots will hit on a 5 because of cover. 1 hit. AP1, so 5 up to save, which fails, so another of the big lads goes down. They're already pinned, so they don't need to take another morale test. Well, there's no point in taking another morale test. The jet wagon, the combat cart, has advanced. It's fast, so it can move 8 inches, and it's going to fire the mega scrap machine gun up at Karlov and his initiates, and the chain RPG into the grinder truck. Now, I checked and double checked, even though it's an Orc vehicle, it does not have bad shot, which surprises me. So I'm wondering if there's some kind of oversight there, but it definitely does not say bad shot on the data on the Forge Builder. So there we go, hitting on 4s. Machine gun. 3 hits. Make that 2 hits because of cover. 2 5s were rolled. AP1, so 6s to save. Nope. So 2 more initiates get cut down. Those will be the last 2. That will leave Karlov on his own. 2 shots from the chain RPG. And I've just checked the line of sight. We can see more than 50% of the target, so the grinder truck is not going to get the benefit of cover, because let's face it, it's quite a big target in the first place. 2 shots hitting on 4s. 1 hit. AP2, so 4 up save. That's a 3, so 1 goes through, and this is deadly 3, so 3 damage taken on the grinder truck. It's tough 6, it's got 3 wounds left, which means it will need to take a morale test of 4+, which fails, so it's pinned. Lots of pinning going on. Next unit to activate for the Soul Snatcher cults, we've got the unit of neophytes, the Seekers. They're the ones armed with the Quake Cannon and they're on top of that building. They're going to fire in at the gangers. I did think about putting the Quake Cannon into the jet wagon, but then I looked at the stats and it's definitely not an anti-tank weapon. It's a blast weapon. So the Quake Cannon gets 1 shot, however, the gangers are in cover and they also get stealth courtesy of the psychic spell, so this is going to hit on a 6. That's a natural 1. 4 rifle shots hitting on 6s. It's 1 hit. I can't use an underdog bonus on the 6 to turn it into a 5 because a natural 6 will always hit. So 1 save of 5+. Fails. One of the gangers gets taken down. The next unit to activate for the orcs is the big lads, or rather the big lad, singular. He's just simply going to unpin himself and mark himself as activated. For the Soul Snatcher Cult, the wolf, the minion quad bike, has activated and rushed forwards. Right, I've now activated the Orc Walker. It has advanced, and my intention was to fire at Archmage Karlov. And until I just checked the stats, I hadn't realised just how much overkill this is probably going to be, because I thought flamethrowers were flamethrowers, so they get 6 shots. These are rapid flamethrowers, so they're 12 shots. And it's got 2 of them, so that's 24 shots. And just like the combat cart, it's also not a bad shot, so it's going to be hitting on 4s or 5s because of the cover, but 24 shots hitting on 5s. I'm really sorry, Archmage Karlov, I'm not entirely convinced you're going to live through this. Maybe the orc inside there is the orc equivalent of an Inquisitor. Right, 24 shots hitting on 5s going in at Karlov. Ouch. So in the end, 8 hits. This is going to need to be 6s to save because they're AP 1. That's only 1 6. Karlov is tough 3. Yeah, he gets well and truly incinerated. But you never know. His Soul Snatcher tainted DNA could well cause him to regenerate for the next game. The Patriarch and the Soul Snatchers have rushed. The Patriarch is a psychic, so he's going to try and cast Stimulant, which will go off on a 4+, but because he's Psychic 1, it'll go off on a 3+. And that's a fail. The Goblins have advanced, moving through that difficult terrain, and are now capturing Objective 3. The Shadows, the other unit of Neophytes, has come out of the Shadows and is on that central objective. I still can't get over the fact that shotguns are AP 1, so I was tempted to put the shotguns into one of the orc vehicles, but I think what I'm actually going to do is put them into the last remaining big lad, and then the machine gun is going to go into Brain Basher and Brain Basher's boys, because I think we're more likely to do some meaningful damage that way. So 8 shotgun shots will be hitting on 5s because of cover. That's 3 hits. AP 1, so 5 up saves. That's only 1 save, so that last big lad, boss mob, is taken down. Then 3 machine gun shots going into Brain Basher's boys, hitting on 5s because of cover. 1 hit, 5+ save, saves. The last unit to activate for the orcs is the Commandos, the Sneaky Gits. They have come out of the building onto Objective 2, and they're going to fire their pistols at the Acolytes. So this will be 5 shots, hitting on 5s because of bad shot, hitting on 6s because of cover. 1 hit, 5 up save. That's a 6, that's a save. The Jackals have simply advanced onto Objective 4. The Acolytes have charged the Commandos on Objective 2. The Acolytes get 6 attacks in total with their mutant claws. 3 of them have got them, so 2 attacks each, hitting on 4s. That's 4 hits at AP 1. These will be 6s to save. So that's 1, and I'm going to use the one and only underdog point to turn that 5 into a 6, I think. And then 4 attacks from the heavy cutters, 2 attacks each, and there's 2 of them in the unit, hitting on 4s. All of them hit. I think that was a very poorly spent underdog bonus, because all 4 of these need to be 6s to save. No, that's the unit gone. Commandos who have just left the care of the Mad Dog are now heading back that way again, I think. And the Acolytes choosing not to consolidate, they're just staying on that objective. Well, that was quite an action-packed first turn. At the end of the first turn, Soul Snatch Cults are on Objective 2, Objective 1 and Objective 4, and the Orcs are on Objective 5 and Objective 3. As we go into turn 2, the Orcs will get the first activation because they finished activating first in turn 1. Before we start turn 2 properly, I was editing the footage for turn 1 and I realised I forgot to get the brutes out of the truck, so I've just done that. At the start of turn 2, is there going to be a random event on a 5+? No. First activation for the Orcs. I've activated the Orc Walker. It has advanced to cover off Objective 3 and is going to fire at the Acolytes on Objective 2. Now, I'll be honest, I did contemplate shooting at the Mutant Brutes instead, but then I thought it might look like I got the Mutant Brutes out of the truck just to shoot at them with the flamers, which is not the case. I got them out of the truck so that they could activate this turn in a decent position because the truck is currently pinned. So rapid fire flamethrowers going into the Acolytes. 24 shots hitting on 4s. That's exactly 12 hits, statistically accurate. 12 saves of 6 up needed because the AP -1 and the 5 up saves. There's only 2 6s, so that's that unit wiped, although the Soul Snatcher Cults will currently continue to hold that objective until the Orcs take it off them. The Brute Champion and Mutant Brutes are going to charge the Walker. Going to go first with the Darkling Lord, and I'm quite surprised actually, he seems to be more of a horde killer rather than an anti-tank monster. So his Sledgehammer is 2 attacks, Blast 3, AP 2, but because there's only one model in the target unit, the Blast 3 doesn't count for anything, and I still think that is wrong. It's a really great big model, so I think Blast should still work against models above a certain toughness at least. Anyway, 2 attacks, hitting on 3s. 2 hits. AP2, so this will be forced to save. Both save. One of the Mutant Brutes is armed with a pick hammer. This is 1 attack which will hit on a 3, which hits. AP2, deadly 3, 4 up save needed. That went behind the building, but it is a 4. So that's a save. And then finally 4 heavy picks, 2 attacks each, so 8 attacks hitting on 3s. 6s are rending, there's 1 6. So 3 regular saves at AP1, 3 up saves. 1 fails, so that's 1 damage through. And then 1 rending save, which will need to be a 6. That's a fail. So that's 2 damage through. Fighting back, the Flaming Grabber gets 2 stomp attacks, which will hit on 4s. That's 1 hit. AP1, so 5 up save needed, which fails, but they have regeneration. Does it regenerate on a 5+? No. So one of the Mutant Brutes will die. And then 2 Walker Claws with 2 attacks each, so 4 attacks hitting on 4s. 2 hits. AP4, so natural 6s needed. No. Do they regenerate on a 5+? One does, one doesn't. Now the combat is technically a draw, 2 wounds inflicted on either side, but the Flaming Grabber, the Orc Walker, has got fear, so it counts as having inflicted D3 additional wounds in combat. So that's going to be at least 1, which means the Flaming Grabber wins the combat. First of all, the Darklings and the Darkling Lord need to fall back an inch because they did not destroy their opponent. And then they will need to take a morale check. They're fine, 3+, they're quality 3+. I'll be honest, I found that quite underwhelming from those Mutant Brutes. Oh well. Right, bear with me a second, because I originally thought the Gangers and Odgit are going to charge the Patriarch and the Soul Snatchers. And then I realised they're starting in difficult terrain, so they can only move a maximum of 6 inches. So I thought, okay, we'll move them forwards, and then they can shoot the pistols at them. So I've moved them, and then I checked the psychic spells for Odgit, and one of them is teleport, which allows a unit to fly, which means they could ignore terrain. So what I'm going to do is, not technically accurate rules wise, but I'm going to try and cast fly, which will go off on a 5+. I'm going to try and cast teleport, which will go off on a 5+. If it works, we'll finish the charge move. If it doesn't work, that's where they would have moved to shoot the pistols, because I don't want to move them back again. So it's going to try and cast teleport, which fails. So there we go. So that's where they are. They're going to shoot the pistols into the Soul Snatchers. There's 11 pistols. They're all bad shots, so they're all going to hit on 5+. Now it's 3 hits. 3 saves of 4+ needed. 1 made, 2 fails, so 2 of the Soul Snatchers die. The shadows have advanced slightly just to make sure all the shotguns are in range, and they're going to shoot at Boss Brainbasher and his boys. 8 shotgun shots will hit on 5s because of cover. 3 hits. AP 1, so 6 is to save. 1 save, so 2 of Brainbasher's boys die. 3 machine gun shots hitting on 5s. All miss. For the orcs, the jet wagon is activated, the combat cart, and it's going to shoot everything over at the Patriarch and the Soul Snatchers. Now, from the point of view of the jet wagon, it's hard to tell whether or not the target unit is obscured by the wolf quad. So I'm going to roll a d6, and on a 4+, target unit gets the benefit of cover. That's a 4, so it gets the benefit of cover because the quad bike is in the way. Mega scrap machine gun, 6 shots hitting on 5s because of cover, and it's not a bad shot. Don't understand why, but there we go. 1 hit. AP 1, 5 up save needed. Fails. 1 of the Soul Snatchers gets taken down. 2 shots from the chain RPG hitting on 5s. Both hit. 6s are nothing special. AP 2, 6s to save. 1 pass, 1 fail, so another Soul Snatcher dies. The unit is at half strength, so it needs to take a morale check on a 3+. That's a 5, so it passes. Next activation for the Soul Snatcher cult. The Seekers are going to fire at the gangers. 4 rifles hitting on 4+. That is definitely cocked. But it's probably going to be a 5. 3 hits. 5 up saves needed. 2 pass, 2 fail. 1 shot from the Quake Cannon, hitting on a 4. Misses. Boss Brainbasher and his boys have advanced. They didn't quite have enough movement to get all of them out of that difficult terrain, the crater. So they've stayed in the crater just for the, 1 more turn, so that they get the benefit of cover. They're going to shoot at the shadows, the unit of neophytes with the shotguns and the machine gun. 20 shots, hitting on 6s because of bad shot and cover. 6s will generate extra shots because of Boss Brainbasher's relentless ability for him and his unit. Three 6s. So 3 more shots. Still hitting on 6s. 1 more. 4 saves of 5 up needed. 2 save. 2 of the neophytes die. The minion quad bike, the wolf, is going to activate next. It's going to fire everything in at the gangers. It's got a heavy flamer, which will be 6 shots hitting on 5+, simply because it's quality 5+. They all miss. And the rider also comes equipped with a burst pistol. So this will be 3 shots hitting on a 5+. 1 hit. I didn't do them all together because the burst pistol doesn't get AP, whereas the heavy flamer does. So this will be a 5 up save, which fails. 1 more of the gangers dies. The goblins, in true goblin style, have advanced backwards into the ruin to get some cover away from the big bulky brutes. They're going to fire the pistols at the mutant brutes. However, the mutant brutes will get the benefit of cover because there's a zonking great big walker in the way, obscuring half the unit. So 10 shots hitting on 5s. 4 hits. Goblins with Relentless would be awesome. Anyway, 4 saves of 4+ needed. 2 fail. Do they regenerate on a 5+? One does. Goblin shooting kills a mutant brute. And the unit of mutant brutes is now down to half starting strength, so needs a morale test on a 3+. Which fails. They're pinned by goblin shooting. All of the orc units have activated, which just leaves Soul Snatcher cults units. So starting with the grinder truck, it's just simply going to unpin itself and mark itself as activated. The jackals have advanced slightly, just so that they can get their shotguns within range of the gangers, and they're going to fire in at the gangers, 6 shots hitting on 5s. 2 hits. AP 1, so 6 is the save. Nope, 2 more gangers die. And the unit is now down to less than half its starting strength, so they need a morale test on a 4+. That's a fail, they're pinned. The Patriarch and the Soul Snatcher are going to charge the gangers. Patriarch is going to try and cast Stimulant, which will go off on a 3+, which passes. So I can pick 2 friendly units within 6 inches and they get furious. So obviously the Soul Snatcher unit and himself, because he's part of the unit, and I may as well give it to the quad bike as well, because that's the only other unit within 6 inches. The weapon profiles are basically the same. The Soul Snatcher gets 3 attacks at AP 1 and rending, hitting on 3s, and the Patriarch gets 6 attacks at AP 1, rending, hitting on 3s. But they both get an extra attack courtesy of Furious. So 11 attacks going in, hitting on 3s. 2 rending hits. And 5 regular hits. With 5 up armour and AP 1, these are going to be saving on 6s anyway. 7 saves of 6+ needed. There's only 1. That will kill an orc, that will kill an orc, that will kill an orc, that will kill an orc. Those 2 will put wounds on Oddgit, so Oddgit is tough 3, he's got 1 wound left. And I nearly always forget to pile in the defending models, and I did on this occasion, so I've just moved Oddgit that little bit closer. Oddgit will get to fight back. He gets 2 attacks with a close combat weapon, but because he's pinned, he only hits on 6s. And they both miss. Oddgit now needs to take a morale test, because they definitely lost that fight. And on a 4+, he'll stay and fight on. That should be 3+, because he's a chemist and he's got a 6-inch aura of +1 to morale tests in melee. But anything less than a 4, he's going to decide that discretion is the better part of valour and clear off. He's going to stick around and fight. And at the end of turn 2, another pretty eventful turn. The Soul Snatchers still technically hold objective 2. They still hold objective 1 and objective 4. The Orcs hold objective 5, only just. That's been a hard fought slog over there. I thoroughly expected all of the Orcs to be gone by now, but Oddgit is hanging in there with 1 wound remaining. And the Orcs have also got objective 3. As before, the Orcs finish activating first in this turn, so they'll get to go first in the next turn. At the start of turn 3, is there going to be a random event on a 5+? No. At the start of turn 3, the Jetpack Orcs have come in from ambush, but the Darkling Lord, the Mutant Brute Champion, has got a pet familiar, which gives a warning cry, and so units coming in from ambush can't arrive within 18 inches of him. But they're still close enough to objective 2 to capture objective 2. First activation for the Orcs. The Orc Walker has moved towards the truck. It's definitely the biggest threat currently on this side of the table. So it's going to fire its rapid fire flamethrowers into the grinder truck. 24 shots hitting on 4s. 14 hits, 3 up saves because of AP 1, 3 wounds to get through because it's already taken 3 damage and it's tough 6. And that is exactly 3 damage. And with a blinding flash, the grinder truck explodes. The Patriarch and the Soul Snatcher have charged into the jet wagon, leaving Oddgit to be finished off by other units, such as the quad bike and possibly the bikers. Patriarch is going to try and cast Stimulant, which will go off on a 3+, which passes. So again, he's going to get Furious, which means there's going to be 11 attacks going into the jet wagon. 11 attacks hitting on 3s. 6s are rending. 2 rending hits, 5 regular hits. 2 rending hits will need 6s to save. No, that's 2 damage. It's tough 6, so it's got 4 wounds left at the moment. Then 5 saves, AP 1, so 3s. 1 more, so it's taken 3 damage, it's got 3 left. Now the jet wagon, like most vehicles, relies on getting the charge in initially in the first place to deliver impact hits. It doesn't have any close combat weapons, so it automatically loses the combat, needs to take a morale test on a 4+. On a 1, 2 or a 3 it will be destroyed because it's at half health. It passes, so the Patriarch and the Soul Snatcher have to fall back an inch. Oddgit has pulled back into the cover of those ruins. He's going to try and cast Warpath on himself, which will go off on a 3+, 4+, but +1 because he's psychic 1, which passes, so he's now got stealth as well as being in cover. And then for good measure he's going to fire his pistol at the quad bike. 1 shot will hit on a 5, which is a miss on a 2. Quad bike has advanced and is going to fire into the jet wagon, try and finish it off. 6 flamethrower shots hitting on 5s. 4 hits, 3s to save because of AP 1. They all save. 3 shots from the burst pistol hitting on 5s. Another 2 hits. No AP, so 2s to save. They both save. The jet wagon is going to fire at the Patriarch and the Soul Snatcher. 6 shots from the mega scrap machine gun hitting on 4s. 3 hits, 6s are nothing special. AP 1, so 5 up saves needed. All fail, so that will kill the last Soul Snatcher and take the Patriarch down to 1 wound. For some reason the Patriarch is only toughness 3, I'd expect it to be 6. 2 shots from the chain RPG, hitting on 4s. 1 hit, 6s are nothing special, but this is AP 2, so it's going to need a 6 to save, and it's deadly 3. Fails. Actually it would have needed a 5 to save because the Patriarch is 3+ defense, not 4+. The Patriarch is taken down. The minion bikers have moved slightly just so that they can still shoot at the jet wagon and also possibly get through onto objective 1 next turn if they need to. And now they're going to shoot at the jet wagon. 6 shots from shotguns hitting on 5s. Only 1 hit. AP 1, so 3 up save, which fails. 1 more wound taken on the jet wagon. He'll need to take a morale test on a 4+, which he passes. Boss Brain Basher is advancing on objective 1. He's going to fire with his lads into those neophytes. 20 shots hitting on 6s. Bad shot and cover. Two 6s, which are relentless, so that will generate 2 more shots, which miss. 2 saves of 5 up needed. 1 saves, 1 fails. The shadows are down to less than half their starting strength, so a morale test of 4+ needed, which they pass. And they're going to return fire at Boss Brain Basher. 3 shots from the machine gun hitting on 4s because the target is no longer in cover. All 3 miss. 2 shotgun shots hitting on 4s. 1 hit, AP1, so a 6-up save needed, which fails. One of the boys goes down. The goblins are going to fire at the mutant brutes. 10 shots hitting on 4s because the walkers got out of the way. Six hits, 6 4-up saves needed. 2 fail. Do they regenerate? No. So that will just leave the brute champion. The Seekers are going to fire at the jet wagon. 4 rifle shots will hit on 4s. 3 hits, 3 saves of 2+. All saved. Quake cannon will fire and hit on a 4+. That's a 6. A 6 is rending. Save of 6+ needed, which fails, so that's taken another damage, putting it on 5 of its 6 tough. Once more a morale test needed of 4+, which fails. It's finally pinned, with 1 wound remaining. The jetpack orcs have moved on to objective number 2, just to make sure they're on it. Now, I did think they'd be able to move and then fire, but mathematically that's not possible, because they've had to come in more than 18 inches away. So they can move 6 inches, they've got 12-inch range on the pistols, that's 18. So mathematically it's not possible for them to get close enough to shoot. And that just leaves the mutant brute champion to unpin himself and mark himself as activated. And at the end of turn 3, the orcs are holding objective 2, still holding objective 3, and still holding objective 5. Soul Snatcher cults are holding objective 4 and just clinging on to objective 1. Going into the 4th and final turn, the orcs will get the first activation again because they finished activating first. At the start of turn 4, is there going to be a random event on a 5+? Yes, there is. It's going to be 44. 44 is No Mercy. The first time during this round when a unit destroys an enemy unit that was pinned, it receives +1 XP. Well, currently there's only one unit that is pinned, and that's the jet wagon, but that's not to say that other units aren't going to get pinned before the end of the round. I think this game is going to come down to who controls that central objective, and to that end, Boss Brainbasher and his boys are going to charge the shadows. Boss Brainbasher is starting things off with his Ultra Claw. He is furious, so he gets 1 extra attack with a weapon of his choice, which will be his favourite Ultra Claw. 3 attacks hitting on 4s. 2 hits. 6s are nothing special. He's going to need natural 6s to save. Like that, 2 of them. Can his attack beast do it? Now, in case you've missed previous episodes, I need to explain that Boss Brainbasher was created before they made changes to some of the orc characters. So he has got an attack beast, not a pet attack beast. So he gets 2 attacks, hitting on 4s. 1 hit, 6 needed to save. That's a 4, that's a fail, so one of them will die to the attack beast. Then 14 close combat attacks from Brainbasher's boys, hitting on 4s. Eight saves of 5 up needed. It could happen, which is why we roll the dice. Nope, that last member of the shadows is taken down, and Boss Brainbasher and his boys can consolidate 3 inches onto the objective. The quad bike has advanced onto objective 5, and it's going to see if it can finish off Odd Git. 6 flamethrower attacks. It's going to need technically 7s because it's quality 5+, but Odd Git has currently got stealth, courtesy of a spell that he cast on himself in the last turn, and he's in cover, so -2. So natural 6s will hit. All of the flamethrower shots miss. 3 burst pistol shots hitting on 6s. Nope, they all miss as well. But the quad bike is on that objective, taking it away from the orcs. The goblins have advanced onto objective 3 and are going to shoot at the brute champion. And they've moved on to objective 3 just in case they don't kill him, so that we can at least contest the objective rather than the soul snatchers stealing it from the goblins. Right, 10 shots hitting on 4s. That's only 3 misses. 7 4+ saves needed. 4 fails. Do they regenerate? Oh, no. 3 of them regenerate, 1 of them goes through. It's got 2 wounds left because it's tough 3. And with that, the brute champion is going to charge the goblins. 2 attacks from his sledgehammer, hitting on 3s, but they are blast 3. 2 hits. Turns into 6 hits. Goblins are going to need natural 6s to save. They fail all of them. And before I move the casualties, once again I forgot to pile in the defenders. There's 4 goblins left, they'll get to fight back, hitting on 6s. 1. Saves on a 4. Saves. The goblins lost the combat, they're at less than half health. They get +1 to morale test because they are headstrong. So 5+ needed. They pass on a 6. So they will be pinned, so they can't hold the objective. The Darkling Lord, the brute champion, will have to fall back an inch though, but the goblins survive that onslaught from the brute champion. The jetpack orcs have advanced. They're going to fire their pistols at the brute champion. 5 shots hitting on 5s because they're bad shots. They all hit. For saying they're bad shots, they all hit. 5 4-up saves needed. 3 fail. Do they regenerate on a 5+? No, they don't. 1 does, but the 2 that don't is enough to kill him. The brute champion is taken down by the pistols from the jetpack orcs. The seekers need to try and kill Odgit in order to prevent him from simply walking onto the objective and contesting it again. So they're going to put everything in because he is in cover. They're going to be hitting on 5s and they want to try and make sure of him. I'm tempted to put the Quake Cannon into the jet wagon to try and finish it off. It's only got 1 wound left, but XP is one thing, winning the game is another. 4 rifles hitting on 5s. 1 hit. 5-up save needed. Saves it. It's a good thing we did fire the Quake Cannon in as well. Speaking of which, hitting on a 5, 6 is rending. It's a miss. Odgit lives at the moment. The Orc Walker has advanced and it can see right the way through that doorway the minion bikers. 24 shots hitting on 4s. They're literally in range by half an inch, that closest biker. I'll let you know how many hits that is. 11 hits at AP 1. This is going to need 6s to save. That's only 1. They're tough 3 each, so that'll be 10 wounds go through, 9 wounds on the unit. That will incinerate the minion bikers. There are no Soul Snatcher cult units left to activate, so we're going to simply unpin the jet wagon. Then last but by no means least, Odgit. Odgit is going to try and Psychic Vomit onto that quad bike. Psychic Vomit will go off on a 6+, he's Psychic 1, so it will go off on a 5+. That's only a 4. For good measure he'll shoot it with a pistol as well. Which hits. And saves. At the end of turn 4, we have a victory for the Orcs. They control objective 2. Technically still control objective 3 because it wasn't taken off them, but at the end of this turn. They control the central objective. The Soul Snatcher cults control objective 4 and also control objective 5. Odgit could have moved on to objective 5 to contest it, but to be frank there was no point. That is a victory for the Orcs, 3 objectives to 2. This thing, the Orc Walker, is absolutely brutal. It literally deleted a unit a turn, and it's tough 12, and I'm really surprised it's not a bad shot. But there we go. So another victory for the Orcs, gives them another 2 victory points towards the campaign. They will get 50 points in their reserves, but they did not accomplish their special objective to have 1 unit in each table quarter. Soul Snatcher Cults lost. They will get 150 points to add to their reserves, and they also did not achieve their special objective because they were not the first army to have a unit recover from being pinned. Casualties recovering for the Orcs. We've got the Runts. They recover with no lasting injuries. We've got the Big Lads. They recover with no lasting injuries. This is the first time we've seen the Sneaky Gits since the very first game. That's cocked. It looks like it was going to be a 4. So they recover with no lasting injuries. And then we've got the Gangers. I think this is the first time we've seen them since the first game as well. I'm not sure. Lost track. They recover with a point of XP. For the Soul Snatcher Cults, pretty much the entire army. Now, law of averages dictates that one of these is probably going to end up missing some games. Bearing in mind, this is the only army that has not had any units missing for any games so far. Right, starting with the Patriarch. I took that up, didn't I? Right, he's going to be missing D3 games. Just 1. So it will miss the next game, but it will be back for the Soul Snatcher Cult's last game in the campaign. The Holy Ones, the Soul Snatchers. That's a 4. They recover with no lasting injuries. The Darkling Lord, the Brute Champion. Recovers with no lasting injuries. The Darklings, the Mutant Brutes. Recover with no lasting injuries. The Blessed Initiates, Karlov's own bodyguard. Recover with no lasting injuries. Archmage Karlov himself is also missing D3 games. How many? Just 1 again. So the Darkling Lord will be taking command for the next game. The Shadows, the new unit of neophytes. Recover with no lasting injuries. The Blessed Sons, the unit of acolytes. Recover with no lasting injuries. Grinder Truck Gamma 4. Recovers with no lasting injuries. And finally the Jackals, the minion bikers. They're going to miss a game. How many? D3 games. Just 1. So again, they miss the next game. So the Soul Snatcher Cults taking a very severe mauling at the hands of the Orcs. Experience for the Soul Snatcher Cults, starting things off with the Blessed Sons, the Acolytes. They have leveled up. They got 1 experience point for killing the Commandos. So they become 25 points more expensive. And we roll to see what trait they get. 4. Resilient. +1 to rolls for blocking hits. So effectively they got defense of 4 up. The Holy Ones, the Soul Snatchers, they get an experience point because they killed Gangers. Likewise the Patriarch also gets an experience point because its attacks helped kill off the Gangers. The Seekers get an experience point for surviving the battle. The Wolf, the quad bike, also gets an experience point for surviving the battle. And then finally, the Shadows get an experience point for killing the Big Lads. The Orc Boss Mob. Loads of experience for the Orcs, starting with Boss Brainbasher and Brainbasher's boys. They're going to get 2 extra points each for killing the Shadows and for surviving the battle. The Gangers get 1 XP because they recovered from being injured. They've obviously learnt from the last time they got injured. The Flyboys get 3 experience points They get 2 points for killing a character, the brute champion, and 1 for surviving the battle. The runts get 2 experience points because they killed off the mutant brutes. Technically they didn't destroy an entire unit because the champion was part of the unit, but they did kill off a unit, the mutant brutes, and they survived the battle. Oddgit survived the battle, just. And then we've got the jet wagon. That gets 5 experience points. It killed the blessed initiates, or finished killing off the blessed initiates. It killed the patriarch, it killed the soul snatchers, and it survived the battle. So 5 XP. It's going to level up and become 25 points more expensive. The trait it's going to get will be 3 specialist. Gets +1 to rolls in melee or shooting. Well, as it's got no melee attacks, it's going to be shooting. It's already not a bad shot. It's already shooting on 4s, so it's going to be shooting on 3s. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox about it not being a bad shot, even though it's an orc. And then we've got probably the star of the show, the absolute beat stick that is the Flaming Grabber. I still can't get over just how much damage it did. Those 2 rapid heavy flamers are just ridiculous. And again, it's not a bad shot. I don't understand why. It's an orc. Right, anyway, it gets 2 points for killing a character because it finished off Karlov. It absolutely barbecued him, so no wonder Karlov is missing the next game. It killed the unit of acolytes, it killed the grinder truck, and it killed the minion bikers, and it survived the battle. So 6 experience points in total. It will level up. It also gets +1. I'm going to put that on its melee attacks, I think, because putting it on the shooting attacks is just going to be really obscene. So it's going to be a specialist in melee. Reinforcements for the Soul Snatcher cult. We have the Gifted Sons, another unit of 5 acolytes. 2 have been upgraded with flamethrower pistols and 2 have been upgraded with demo chargers. They are 135 points. And the orcs aren't taking any upgrades and they're not recruiting any more units, leaving them 85 points in total in their reserves pot. So with all armies having now played 4 games each, the orcs are currently in the lead with 7 victory points in the campaign. The Soul Snatcher cults and the Plague Disciples both have 4 victory points, and the HDF, the Human Defence Force, have got 3 victory points. Each army still has 2 games left to play. So that was episode 8 of the campaign. I hope you enjoyed it. It certainly felt a bit more even and well balanced than the previous game did. Thank you very much for all your encouragement, because it really does take a lot out of me putting these videos together. It takes well over a day to put one of these videos together. By the time I've done the animation at the beginning, actually playing the game, getting the cameras set up in the right angles for all of the different shots, doing the editing afterwards, adding the sound effects, yeah, it takes well over a day to get one of these episodes filmed. So your ongoing encouragement is very much appreciated, and I genuinely mean that. I do appreciate all the encouragement that you give me in the comments for the videos. So thank you very much for your support. Please continue to like, comment and subscribe, and until next time, God bless.